Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 305 Insights. I'm your host, Alan Somerton, and today we're reviewing the Miami Hurricanes versus the Cardinals. Louisville Cardinals. I know some people locally like to say Louisville, so I'm trying to respect both ones. 52 to 45. That was definitely an offensive shootout. Once again, concerning for this defense, but Miami scored double-digit points in each quarter, 10, 14, 14, 14. And, they come away with the victory. And it's a little closer because Louisville scored with 54 seconds left. But overall, they kind of pulled away in the fourth quarter once it was a tie game. But, yeah, another impressive offense performance. I think the thing that you have to lean in on a positive note was the rushing attack. But, of course, we got to start with Cam Ward, 21 of 32, 319 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And he also had 7 rushing yards for 29 yards. Great all-around performance by him once again as he marches on to New York. And, yeah, he's going to be in the Heisman contention. He might be number 2 right now behind Genty from Boise State. But he's definitely in the top 3. I can't think of who else might be up there with them at the top of my head, because I don't think Travis Hunter had a great game, but you still have to kind of respect him for being there. But for sure, I think he's top 2, and he might not even be number 2. Mark Fletcher, 13 of 73, 5.6 yards a carry. Ajay Allen, the forgotten man, if you will, of this running back room, with all the appearances from Chris Johnson Jr. and Jordan Lyles and all that stuff. Good game. 5 for 31 with a touchdown. But the big news from this game was the production from Damian Martinez. 12 rushes, 89 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, he had multiple carries where he was just looking like a man amongst boys. Like, this is what you brought him in for. Like, just... He had a few plays where he was dragging defenders as well. And it's just... Yeah, that's what you expected when you brought him in from Oregon State. So, Cam Ward on the season, 2,538 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 190 rushing yards, and 3 TDs. So, yeah. Sam Brown had a surprisingly good day today. 3 catches, 125 yards, and a TD. He's usually not that productive in the sense of his overall yardage output, but you kind of brought him in to be sort of that veteran to lean on outside of Xavier Strepo. And, he played a lot in West Virginia, Houston, so he's been around for a while. But he finally had that game that you were hoping that he could step up every once in a while and do, and he did it here. Especially with that almost 60-yard touchdown catch. Xavier Restrepo, Mr. Reliable, once again, I know we always call him that, but 7 for 101 with the touchdown. Jacoby George, 3 for 43 with the touchdown. Mark Fletcher, 4 for 26. It seems like he kind of took over that Damian Martinez role of getting those receiving yards for the running backs, because Martinez has been doing that over the past few weeks. And now it was Fletcher's turn, so basically gets very close. 99 yards of total offense. Isaiah Horton had a touchdown catch, only 3 of 17, though, and Ajay Allen had 1 for 7. Only unfortunate part from Fletcher is he did fumble the ball. But again, this offense is firing on all cylinders, that's for sure. 541 total yards, 27 first downs, 9 of 15 on third down efficiencies, 2 for 2 on fourth down. So just they controlled the time of possession. 34-18 to 25-42. So just a great job by this offense. And what was interesting is you had the return of Jalen Rivers on the offensive line. He's normally a left tackle, but he slid into left guard. He's been versatile. He's played multiple guard positions and the tackle positions. And he let Markel Bell play at left tackle. So that was pretty much the line on the left side that was used for pretty much the entire second half. And if you don't know Markel Bell, yeah, he had some trouble against Virginia Tech, I believe. But this kid's 6'9". Like he's a huge mountain of an individual. So again, you have that unselfishness of Jalen Rivers, and I believe he said it in the post game interviews that Bell has been doing a great job, and they were 1-0 each week with him at that position, and he didn't feel, even though Rivers is trying to get to the NFL, and in all likelihood he will be drafted at some point. But it's the unselfishness and that culture that's being built up that is on full display here, where you're rewarding that play as your fellow player, not just from the coaching staff saying Jalen Rivers is stepping up and telling Cristobal and company, hey, this kid needs to continue playing because you guys did well with him there. I'll shift around somewhere else if we need help there based on injuries or whatnot, and I'll use my versatility to help the team in any way to win. And that's what you need to see from this team, and they're showing it. There's no me attitude. It's let's continue this special season that I've been talking about. So, but yeah, just a good, solid showing. Again, this offense humming, 7.5 yards per play. So, just pretty good. And you did allow 3 sacks, but sometimes you can chalk that up to Cam Ward waiting for that explosive play to open up. So it's not always necessarily the offensive line's fault, but they, for the most part, kept him clean. Outside, I believe there was a series where they allowed 2 straight sacks. But other than that, Simeon Barrow, back-to-back games where he's definitely shown his influence. 6 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, a sack, a forced fumble, QB hurry. Reuben Bain Jr., a sack, tackle for loss, 2 tackles overall. And he was really double teamed and just causing a lot of action to go his way in the sense of the scheme to protect against him, allowing all these other guys to really step up. Tyler Barron, 4 tackles, half a tackle for loss, 2 QB hurries. And again, that's what I'm talking about, where he's able to get to the quarterback quickly. And you had some other guys stepping up as well on the defense. You had your lead tackler on the day. You had Darryl Portal Jr. with 9, and you also had a pass deflection. But we also mentioned the tackle for losses. You had Akeem Mozer with a tackle for loss. And Jadaeus Richard as well, the tackle for loss. He had a pass deflection as well. Francisco Mario got 4 tackles and 2 pass deflections. Misha Powell had a pass deflection. Zaquan Patterson had a pass deflection. So 6 total pass deflections, 6 tackle for losses, 3 sacks. Just kind of hoping for turnovers to show up, but unfortunately they didn't really present themselves in that execution. So again, a lot of good to come from specific areas, but in the totality of things, again, it's one of those things where you understood coming off a bye week that you had plenty of time to prepare for the Braum brothers, Jeff Braum and Brian Braum, and how they were going to attack this defense and how you were going to be prepared for that. But you allowed 448 yards of total offense. Again, the 45 points. You gave up 15 chunk plays. You had 4 runs that were more than 10 yards, 11 passes that were more than 15. And just, I don't know. It's just concerning because you knew Louisville is a really good offense with the way they scheme things, but you were still hoping for a change from the past few weeks of what's been going on with the Virginia Tech game in the Cal game and all that stuff, and you're kind of hoping for more of a statement, to be honest. And you went up 31-17 and you gave up a kickoff return for a touchdown. Not really ideal. So yeah, it's just at this point you really want the defense to improve in the next game because you're playing FSU and FSU just doesn't have an offense. But you had one penalty. You had 55 penalties or 55 yards of penalties on 5 penalties called, and one of them took away a touchdown. That seems to be a growing trend for UM this season. I believe they've had a handful, if not more, touchdowns taken off the board because of various penalties, whether it's pass interference, holding, etc., that are called in the offense to prevent it from happening. But yeah, it's just, again, the passing defense is concerning. You allow this team to just go up and down the field, honestly. 31 of 51 for 342 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's tough. And they didn't run the ball as much, but they were still effective. Isaac Brown. And the QB's name is Tyler Show. I know I mispronounced that. But, 6'5", 225 senior. He kind of has the look of a good quarterback, but Brian Brom and Jeff Brom make a lot of quarterbacks look really good. But yeah, Isaac Brown, 9 of 56 for 6.2 yards a carry for a touchdown. Duke Watson, 3 of 39. Donald Chaney, former Hurricane. He had 3 carries for 29. Dwayne Martin, 1 for 14. And then, you had Tyler have 4 for negative 32. So that's the sacks and whatnot. But just a really good effort on the rushing attack right now for Louisville against this team. You kind of take away the negative 32 and you've got a guy averaging 6.2 yards a carry. You got a guy averaging 13, 9.7, 14. You got 56 and 39. What is that? That's 80, 89, 95 plus 14. That's 105, 109 plus 29. What, 138? 138 yards rushing if you don't include the 4. So that'd be 17 for 138. That's 8 yards a carry, if all my math checks out. So not the best look. Ja'Cory Brooks had 6 for 107 with a touchdown. Chris Bell, 5 of 7. Yeah, just a lot of guys 8. And again, you were just hoping for more from this defense. So again, we're nitpicking here, but again, what we've been talking about on multiple episodes is the fact that you need to be special to compete against these special teams in college football. And you're not going to be able to play games like this where you're going to be able to shoot out everybody. Someone's going to have a defense that can stop you. And can your defense step up in that moment? Because so far, the most impressive thing has been that Florida game. And that's pretty much it, because then all the other games are kind of like gimme games in terms of the other wins against non-ACC opponents. Ever since the ACC slate has started, it's been high-scoring affair after high-scoring affair. So it's FSU week. It's going to be at Hard Rock. And that makes you wonder how this team is going to be prepared. As we talked about previously in the UM or the FSU podcast, that they're a 21.5-point favorite. Is Mario going to let that permeate through the locker room? I know he's not cut that way, but can you convince these kids of that. You know, people like to forget that these college kids, week in and week out, it's tough to keep them, level-headed and concentrated. This is the chance to win the Sunshine State. You don't get that often at where you get to face both UF and FSU. This will be the cherry on top of this season, where you're expected to win the ACC. At this point, you're one of the favorites, if not the favorite, unless you still consider Clemson there. But, you're 1A or 1B. And you have the opportunity to absolutely pummel both of your in-state rivals. That sets you up for recruiting. That sets you up for transfer portal. That sets you up for bragging rights for 364 days until the next one. And don't forget that, Cristobal hasn't beaten FSU yet, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he has, because then they lost 45-3 his opening season, and they lost 27-24, whatever it was last season, 27-20. And then, you have this season. So he's going to ideally want to erase all the zeros against those teams. And this could get ugly, but you have to make sure that your team stays disciplined, because we know that a lot of these kids played against each other. So, but again, this is your toughest stretch. You have to go at Louisville, and you handled that. You play FSU at home, and then you play Duke, who's 6-1 currently. So you got to keep this special season going. You got to keep working on the little things. Again, it's not a good thing that since ACC play has started, you've allowed 34, 38, and 45 points. It's going up. That's not what you want. Again, we're talking about a team that won 41-17 against Florida, 56-9 against Florida A&M, 62-0 against Ball State, and 50-15 against South Florida. But again, they're going up incrementally with the points you're giving up. 34, 38, and 45. I'll say it again. That's not good. You can't be, you got the Cardiac Cats a few years ago with the Florida Panthers. You can't have the Cardiac Canes. Again, you're heavily favored against Florida State. You're going to be favored against Duke. You're going to be favored against Georgia Tech. You're going to be favored against Wake Forest. And you're going to be favored against Syracuse. I mean, that Wake Forest game, this should be one of the easier games in the schedule. That Florida State game should be an easy game. The Duke game, for all intents and purposes, Duke is a really bad 6-1. I know it's hard to say, but they've had a good string of facing backup quarterbacks and eking out wins here and there when they may not need to. But you should win that game handily. Georgia Tech might be a tougher game, even though they're 5-3, but they're starting to get the pieces there, and they're building on something there. And then Syracuse, they're 5-1 currently, but we'll be able to sustain that. They've got some talent, but they shouldn't be able to hang with you by the end of the season. So, again, you need to keep this special season going, but there's a lot to like about this team on the offensive side and on the defensive line side, but the passing game is starting to be a growing concern where, yes, again, I've said it multiple times on this podcast that the Braun brothers know how to scheme a way up, but you gave a lot of yards up to California, where you gave up their most explosive plays of the year. I believe it was their top 4 most explosive plays of the year. And then, you gave up 34 points to Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech doesn't always score that much against good opponents. Like Vanderbilt, who turned out to be a good opponent, Virginia Tech scored 27. Against Rutgers, Virginia Tech scored 23. They turned around and scored 34 against you. They didn't even score 34 against Stanford. They scored 31. They scored 42 against Boston College, but consistently, they don't seem to be a top-tier scoring, and you allow that to happen. We don't even want to look at Cal. I mean, Cal, they scored, what was it, 9 points against FSU's defense, and FSU's offense can't, they can't do anything. And you missed a few field goals, sure, but I mean, looking at them real quick, they lost to NC State 24-23. They lost to Pitt 17-15. They lost to Florida State 14-9. San Diego State only allowed 31 points to them. They beat Auburn 21-14, and they beat UC Davis 31-13. So that 38 points is an anomaly, honestly, because of how many big yards they allowed. They need to clean that up. And honestly, this is the perfect game to do it against an offense in FSU that is anemic. They haven't hit 300 yards of total offense in this is the 7th game, so they haven't hit it in like 10 games, I think, somewhere around there. It's the Florida, Louisville, Georgia, and then plus these 7 games. They haven't hit 300 yards of total offense, so this is a time for the defense to feast. And the only reason they may get 300 yards is if you're playing all the young kids, and it's just trying to rest everybody. So we'll touch on that game later on in the week, kind of do a halfway point review of each team, even though we kind of do that every week of just summarizing where we feel where they are. But we'll still kind of just clump that all into one episode and just make it a huge, FSU-UM or rivalry week episode. So, yeah, that's some of the content we'll have coming out. We'll also have content about, the weekend that just passed of college football and reviewing some of the influential games that happened there and how they shook up the standings and the projected playoff standings as well. So something else to look forward to. We're at the end of the episode, folks. You know the speech I'm about to give right now. You've been through it before, if you're a repeat listener. If not, enjoy this for the first time. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow, do all that positive stuff. Turn those notifications on so you get that message right on your phone when we're putting out these episodes. They're waiting for you to listen, folks. And they're good ones. Trust me. I'm recording them. So yeah, that's it for today's episode, folks. The special season continues for UM. Just kind of soak it all in. You're having a special season by Cam Ward. You've got a great running back room. You've got a great offensive line. You've got solid wide receivers. You've got solid tight ends. You've got a good defensive line. Maybe even, good, solid defensive line. Good linebackers. Got to worry about the back end, though, of the defense. But this is shaping up to be a special season, folks, so enjoy it. It's been a long time since his teams were able to display something like this outside that one Mark Richt year. But this is more of a talent thing that you can clearly see they're more talented than every team they step up in the field against. So don't forget to enjoy it, folks. And thanks for listening for this episode. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you next time here on 305 Insights. Have a good one, folks.